For this video, we're going to start to get into verb conjugation. And verb conjugation is where, as English speakers, we do have a little bit of a tougher time in Spanish, because in English we don't conjugate verbs as much. And I'm going to show you an example of this. So we take a look at the Spanish verb hablar, which means to speak. You'll see that every time we change the subject, yo means I, we're going to change the ending of the verb. So yo hablo, tú hablas, él, ella, he or she, or usted, the formal, habla, nosotros, we, hablamos, and ellos or ellas, ustedes, they or you all, hablan. Now let me show you what this would look like in English so that you can understand a little better why this is hard for us. If we took the verb speak in English, and whenever you see verb conjugation, it's always going to be in the same order, no matter if it's Chinese, Russian, English, Spanish, it's always in first person, second person, third person. And we, they. So in English, if I list out the verb speak and I put all of my pronouns in the same order, I'm only going to have one change right here in the third person singular. I speak, you speak, he, she, or it speaks. That little s right there is verb conjugation. We are changing the verb so that it matches the person that's doing the action. It matches the subject. We speak, they speak. But because we only do this one time in the present tense, we don't know the term verb conjugation. We don't think about it. We don't have this level that they do in Spanish. And if you think about it in the past tense, we don't change anything at all. You say I went, you went, she went, he went. This is even less throughout the rest of the English language. So that's why it is a little difficult for us to get the hang of this. But the way that we're going to do it is going to be a way that helps you get used to it easier. And it's going to be a way that if you develop good habits right now, Spanish long term is going to be a lot easier for you. Now let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to conjugate another verb here. So I'm going to use the verb tomar because tomar is just very commonly used. And this means to take or to drink. So if you're in Latin America, you'll hear people say tomar when referring to drinking water. Or you could use it to take, like to take an exam, to take a phone call, to take blood. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do, my first step is going to be to take off the AR ending. As you can see, the verbs here, they end in an AR, ER, or IR. So it's very easy to identify what is a verb in Spanish. Whereas in English, you can see below, it's kind of anything goes. There's no rule. There's no way to look at it and know it's a verb based on how it's spelled. So that's a good thing. If you like things that are consistent and patterns, you'll do very well with this. So now that I've taken off my AR, I'm going to write what's left. Tom. Tom is going to be my word root. This is going to be how we form verbs, nouns, adjectives, and sometimes adverbs. So the word root is very important. If you pay attention to it now, you'll have a better overall understanding when you come across other words that come from the same root and being able to guess their meaning in context. So to make this, put my word root on each line. And then the second part of verb conjugation is that I'm going to add a new ending. Now my new ending is going to be based off of it being an AR, ER, or IR verb. In this case, it's an AR verb. So I'm just going to copy the endings from above, from the example. So yo, I'm going to put an O. So instead of yo hablo, I speak, now I have yo tomo, I drink. Tú tomas, él, ella, or usted toma. Nosotros tomamos. And ellos or ustedes toman. These are the 5 conjugations, and I know this is a lot right now. I know that this seems very overwhelming. I want to remind you that this is going to be like math. If you're studying verb conjugation, it's much like math when you first learned how to do your times tables, and I'm sure that you wrote them out, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, 2 times 5, and you wrote them all the way up to 10. But now if I asked you what's 2 times 8, you wouldn't have to write that out. You would know how to do it in your head. The same with addition, subtraction, everything that you had to start somewhere, and you had to start by writing it out, even if it was 5 plus 5. Well, that's the same pattern that's going to happen here for you. The only way to get verb conjugation is to practice, and then eventually you'll get to a point where you don't need to do it anymore. It will click in your head. The problem is we don't know when that point is going to happen. It's going to be different for every person, and it's going to depend on a lot of different factors. So my suggestion to you is going to be to focus and put more importance on the yo form of the verb. So if you think of it as going like this, the yo is going to be number 1. Because when you're learning a language, you're going to speak about yourself. You're going to communicate your basic needs, wants, preferences. Then the to form is how you're going to ask questions. So we also need that form because we need to be able to ask to get the information that we need or to engage in a conversation. These are the 2 most important. And then the he, she form, él, ella, you're going to use that when you're describing other people. But this is something that you can wait. You don't need to learn this on the first day. So what I usually do is I will break it up and we'll start with 1 and 2. We'll start with yo and to so that we can at least have a conversation. And that gives you a little bit of time to get used to these new words, get used to verb conjugation, get used to the word root and what it means. And then we can add in él, ella, and start talking about other people. And then after a little bit more, we'll go ahead and we'll add in the last 2. The we and the they or you all forms. So if you prioritize it this way, it's not nearly as overwhelming to look at just 2 verb forms or even 1 verb form instead of 5. That's my recommendation. Now just to practice, I'm going to show you 2 more common regular verbs. And how about we do correr, which means to run. So again, I'm going to take off my ending. My ending is now an ER, but I'm still going to take off the ending, and I'm left with the stem, my root, core, 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 core. And now I'm going to add my new endings. There is a pattern, as you can see. The O is consistent across the 3 forms. And then, if you look here, the only difference between the ER and the IR is in the we form. The rest of them are the same. So I'm going to write in my new forms. Corro, I run. Corres, you run. Corre, corremos. Corren. And there I have it. Now I have 5 more things that I can say. Now for the IR verb, how about we do escribir? Escribir means to write. Escribir. It's a little longer, but don't be intimidated. We're still going to do the same thing. We're going to take off the IR. And I'm left with my word root, escribe. I'm going to write it. And then I'm going to fill in my new endings. So remember, only the nosotros form is going to be different. Escribo, escribes, escribe, escribimos, escriben. And that is how you do verb conjugation. If you want to maximize what you're doing with verb conjugation and really to make it very effective, writing out like this will be good for the beginning. It will be good for you to get the hang and to remember the different endings. But once you remember the different endings, I would suggest that you move on to writing in context, to making sentences about yourself, about people you know, making questions, and making it more meaningful is going to do a lot more for your retention than simply just conjugating like this forever. So that's going to be it for this video and your overview on the present tense and verb conjugation.